Here we are, dear viewers, the best horror movies of 2024, part 2. Now, I'll admit, I didn't watch literally every horror movie that came out this year.
Disappointed!
But hey, my goal was to find the best horror movie of 2024 for you all. Remember what I said a few vids ago?
And we will stop at nothing to possess it.
And on that journey, I watched over 70 horror movies this year, so I think I put in a fair amount of effort. Is that enough to say that I am the king of horror? Who's to say?
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
Enough intro. Let's get on with the best horror movies, part 2. These are in no particular order, and the thing that they all have in common is that I think they kick ass and would recommend every single one of them. And don't worry, I'll keep away from the spoilers as much as I can. I wanted to start off with a few honorable mentions. Now, I don't want to give off the wrong impression. These movies didn't make the cut just because I have a deep hatred of the French. First honorable mention is Red Rooms. Red Rooms is a French-Canadian drama that likes to pretend that it's a horror thriller because the story focuses on a courtroom case where a man is on trial for sawing teenagers in half for some Bitcoin on the dark web. Now, why am I bringing this movie up? It's a good movie, however, it's pretty slow.
Disappointed!
You would think that this movie would be a courtroom drama based off of what I just said.
But no!
We are barely in the courtroom. The movie focuses on some random model chick who goes out of her way to sit in the audience of the court case as much as she can. She's a bit of a smarty pants and takes this case personally. Why, you might ask? I honestly don't know.
Huh?
Yeah, I was expecting this story to get more on a personal level for our main chick, and I was waiting for a reveal that never came. The movie does pick up in the second half when her big plan finally comes into fruition, but it's not really that grand. I liked the movie, but because it's a pretty slow foreign flick that doesn't have any kind of grand payoff, I can't recommend it. And that will keep near any movie off of my best of lists. If I wouldn't recommend it to a fair amount of people, sorry, close but no cigar. Next is Vardelak. Vardelak is a French period piece vampire movie. Sounds like a slam dunk. I mean, I am all about that shit. However,
Oh man, there's always a catch!
it's told like an old fairy tale, and I know for damn sure that's not gonna be for everyone. Not much happens for a while, and once things do start to happen, like the actual fairy tale aspect of it, it's super cheesy. The vampire in this movie looks like a marionette, cause he's actually a marionette, and I have a feeling that a lot of people aren't going to be able to look past how intentionally cartoony it looks, and the idea that a family member would be fooled into believing everything is all hunky-dory with a relative that is obviously a fucking monster. Not a terrible movie, but I can count on probably 2 hands the amount of people who would love it. Another movie that I wanted to bring up before the best ofs is Alien Romulus. Don't worry, I'll make this quick. I saw this movie opening night and I was pretty excited for it. The first 2/3 of the movie were like Alien, everything was small scale, everything was tight, gritty, and I felt like I was in heaven. You know, the kind of heaven where facehuggers mouth fuck you till a chestburster wipes you out of existence. But the second half of the movie takes a pretty steep dive in quality. Everything gets bigger just for the sake of being bigger. It felt very Hollywoody. Instead of one xenomorph, we get like 30 of them. Super unnecessary. They start from being super hard to kill to being super easy to kill. There's some pretty bad and unnecessary CGI, and it just... I don't know. I should have put this on either my underrated or overrated list because I can't put it on my best of lists. Oh, and that ending felt like a fucking eternity. Just goes to show that an ending can be so bad that it can spoil the whole movie. Oddity.
I am telling you that there is someone in there with you.
Oddity is a bit of an odd movie to describe because I went in as blind as possible. There was a teaser trailer that dropped and I'm pretty sure it got near everyone intrigued. And the ratings kind of speak for themselves. Most people liked Oddity. Anyways, I'll just read the online description. A psychic medium attempts to uncover the truth behind her sister's murder at the site of the crime. I watched this movie blind, and at first I was a bit puzzled when the psychic medium came into play because I had no idea that this was going to be a story involving twins. So, just a fair warning. Oddity is a horror thriller mystery that has some of the best scares of the year.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Is it a perfect movie? No. I had a few little gripes with the ending, but coming up with a perfect ending can be pretty tough. I'd honestly give this movie like a 9 out of 10. The setting is great, the acting is solid, the scares sneak up on you, they build you up, and they make you squirm in your seat, and there's a fair amount of setup and payoff. I did a slightly longer review on this one already, but I did a non-spoiler vid because I didn't want to ruin anything for anybody. But if you want, link in the description below. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of this movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's on Shudder. Heretic.
Good afternoon. Mr. Reed, are you interested in learning more about the Church of Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
Heretic is the Mormon missionary thriller about two sister missionaries visiting a psychopath played by the stereotypical rom-com Brit, Hugh Grant. The man is a religious philosopher and he really wants to test these girls' knowledge and their faith. I did a full and complete breakdown of this movie, feel free to give it a watch, and I mentioned this there, so I'll just mention it again. I am very familiar with the main religion portrayed in this flick. So, from a religious perspective, I really liked the movie, but it's not perfect. From a horror fan's perspective, I really liked the movie, but it's not perfect. This is a talkie, and when it comes to talkies, the dialogue is very well written. Not like some amateur YouTuber pretending to know what the fuck he's talking about.
Wait a minute!
Even though I do have some religious gripes with the movie, the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to watch it again. Everyone does a pretty solid job, and Hugh Grant really surprised everyone being the main psycho in this thriller. It's currently not streaming for free anywhere, so pick your poison. Also, don't let one-off prices scare you. Remember, if we don't pay, new horror will slow, and we can't let the spread of horror slow down. Ever. Daddy's Head.
You need to say goodbye. He's not going to live.
Goodbye, Daddy.
Daddy's Head is a neat, tight little creature feature about a small family dealing with the grief of a recently deceased father and husband. It's hard to say much else because this is a pretty simple movie. I will say that even though it is a creature feature, it's a small cast, so don't expect a bloodbath kind of creature feature. This is on a much more personal level, and you really want these people to make it out okay. But the question is, can they? This little goodie is also on Shudder. They have been doing really well this year, unlike some bigger companies. Blumhouse?
Oh, fuck you.
Smile 2. Smile 2 is the follow-up to the huge, jaw-dropping Smile that came out not too long ago. In the first movie, we followed a psychiatrist that had the unfortunate luck of crossing paths with the Smile demon. But fortunately for us, she fucks up big time and we got a sequel because of it. The sequel follows a pop star who crosses paths with the Smile demon. And I gotta say, some actresses can really surprise you. Naomi Scott has been in some dog shit movies. But that is no reason to write off an actor completely. I thought Kristen Stewart would never be in any decent movie that's liked by someone who isn't a teenage goth kid with mediocre tastes in shitty vampire books. But hey, Underwater is a pretty awesome horror movie, and Naomi Scott nails it in Smile 2. This movie has some great scares, though it definitely favors the jump scares, and when I say jump, I mean it's gonna sound like someone fired a gun off into your ear. I mean beside your ear. One other gripe I can't not bring up is that this is an unnecessary sequel.
Oh, boo-hoo!
Hey, it's a real criticism to have. You would think that we would learn more about the Smile Demon in this movie, but that definitely doesn't happen. We learn more about the Thing in the first movie, which kind of begs the question of, why did they make this sequel?
I love to dive around in it like a porpoise.
Oh yeah. So, despite those gripes, I think this movie is still solid and earns a watch. It's on Paramount Plus, and a longer review will be linked below. Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3 is a solid addition to the Terrifier franchise. I have an inconsistent relationship with the Terrifier franchise. I think the first movie is a legit shit movie.
Blasphemy!
But it is because of that movie we got Terrifier 2, which was a serious improvement, with some exceptions, mostly coming from the atrocious acting from the mother character. And Terrifier 3 is another step up. I like how they even bring up the forced sailor mouth of the mom in a kind of funny nod to the previous movie. I did a very long form review of this with my buddy Vic Shy at the Horror Mind. You can check out that vid on my channel or his member channel and even get some face reveals. So Terrifier 3 makes some odd choices like a 5-year time jump, and there's no actual reason for that, nor is there a reason for this to be on Christmas. They just picked that idea for a story and went with it. Not complaining, but there is no reason for it. It's got all the classic aspects that the Terrifier is known for, so if you're a fan of the franchise, seeing the third installment is a no-brainer. You'll have to pay to see it, so pick your poison. Strange Darling.
This is a dramatization of the true story of the final known killings of the most prolific and unique American serial killer of the 21st century.
Strange Darling is a thriller that's all over the place via time jumps. Now, normally I dump on those time and time again. However, Strange Darling jumps around throughout the whole movie.
We're listening.
The movie is divided into chapters, and it goes from like 2 to 5 to 3 to 1 to 4 to keep you guessing and on your toes, and it does it pretty well. This contained thriller is a serial killer predator versus prey kind of movie, and the performances are solid, which always makes me happy because I am a big fan of Kyle Gallner, and I want him to be in more solid movies. And after seeing how more jacked he is in these movies year after year, I want him to be in even more movies.
Giggity. What? Nothing, it's stupid.
You gotta pay for this one, dealer's choice. Blink Twice.
So I sort of bought an island.
An island?
It's a great place to bring friends.
Blink Twice is the, you know damn well the standout aspect of this movie is that it's the Channing Tatum horror movie.
One particle of unobtainium has a nuclear reaction with a flux capacitor. Carry the two, changing its atomic isotoner into a radioactive spider. Fuck you, science!
This is a good old thriller with a bunch of people having a fun time on a private island. Sometimes a little too much fun. For them. For us, we eat that shit up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It would have been nice if Channing Tatum's character was the main character, but we follow around a chick he is apparently really into and invites on the spot to his private island. The movie plays with some mind fuckery, and it's pretty fun trying to figure out who can be trusted and who can't, and also how all of this is happening. The only gripes I can have with this flick is that for a second I thought we were gonna have to suffer through some vomit-inducing girl boss nonsense, but then it knocks that shit away quick fast, and I was able to breathe a sigh of relief that we were able to have a movie that didn't make me suspend my disbelief too much.
Oh, bring it on! Let it rain down on me!
It's playing on MGM Plus if y'all want to watch a thriller suspense flick. Long Legs.
Is it scary being an FBI agent?
Long Legs was probably one of the most marketed horror movies of the year, and unfortunately it set a very high and kind of wrong bar for people, and because of that, plenty of people began to hate on it because of the hype. The marketing kept saying that this was, quote, the scariest horror movie of the year. Here's the thing.
Oh man, there's always a catch!
This is not the scariest horror movie of the year. However, it is one of the best.
Fuck yeah.
This is like Silence of the Lambs with a bit of Black Phone. Both solid ass movies. It's a detective thriller with a smidge of supernatural, and the cherry on top is a Nick Cage villain character. You'll have to pay for it to watch it, but I'm pretty damn sure that it'll be worth your money if and when you purchase it. Maxxxine.
Ain't nowhere to hide. There's show business. You never work in this town again.
Maxxxine is the third and final installment in the Ty West trilogy about gals who won't accept a life that they don't deserve. This is an odd trilogy. Okay, so first we got X, a mediocre slasher flick filled with predictable and unoriginal kills.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
Shitting on X aside, the main chick is Maxxxine, who is an adult film star who craves stardom. And she is with a small group of people and they encounter some hick psychos, one of them being Pearl. And for some odd reason, Pearl is in old lady makeup because it's played by Mia Goth, who also plays Maxxxine. I really don't get why some actors play multiple roles in a film. Like, is it cause it's cheaper? Vanity? Who the fuck knows? We then got a prequel movie titled Pearl, which followed Pearl in her early years yearning for stardom, which is the main connection between her and Maxxxine, but that's the only connection between the two.
You serious, Clark?
Yeah, in my personal opinion, that's not a good enough reason to make them be played by the same character, or even make Pearl the first of this trilogy. That being said, I loved Pearl, and Maxxxine on its own is a pretty solid flick, and I think it's even better than X. Maxxxine takes place shortly after X, and she is still working in adult films, but she gets a pretty big break by landing the part in a sequel horror movie. Now, horror hasn't always been the most respected of film categories, but the original movie made so much that it got a sequel greenlit, and as long as you nail your part in it, it could be huge for your career. While trying to get the life that she deserves, we get to know Maxxxine, and she's a pretty likable character. This is the huge difference between her and Pearl. Pearl was actually psychotic. Maxxxine is just a hardworking gal that isn't afraid to fight for what's hers. And during the fighting, we get a lot of in-your-face hardcore violence that really helps remind you that this is a slasher flick. And I'll admit, because this is an odd trilogy, the main big bad at the end doesn't have a lot of impact because it kinda comes out of nowhere as opposed to a satisfying big bad that gets some much needed resolution. This is on Max if you want to know how the Ty West saga concludes. Cuckoo.
Mom, I really want to go home. You're getting back.
Cuckoo is a very interesting horror creature feature following a small family going to a mountain resort in Germany where everyone is just alone enough for some fuckery to go about thanks to the head of the resort and his desire to be a conservationist. I feel like I can't say anything more than that in this non-spoiler section, but I did a much longer review and I'll put that in the link below, but the performances are solid, there's a standout joke that made me LOL pretty hard. Also, some very solid scares, and you gotta give a little extra credit to horror movies that manage to actually scare ya. And this one's on Hulu. The Substance.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself?
The Substance is a wild flick. It's a body horror flick that dabbles in pretty much all other genres of movie. There's a little bit of romance, some humor, horror, gore, drama, thrills, and a lot of tits and ass.
Giggity. What? Nothing, it's stupid.
Yeah, this is the kind of movie that your girlfriend might not want to watch, unless y'all swing that way. Not judging, but I am totally judging.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
So the movie goes over a fitness instructor that is literally aged out of the industry and gets offered a way to still be in the game via the substance. It shouldn't come to anyone's surprise that this movie made it on my list. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry has sung the praises of this movie from their late night laptop sessions on their laps, if ya know what I mean.
Shame on you!
This movie is on Mubi, and I know for damn sure no one actually subscribes to that directly, so it'll cost you a few bucks to watch. Nosferatu.
Come to me. Come to me. Hear my call.
Nosferatu weirdly came out on Christmas Day. Yeah, nothing like Saint Nick to make you think about vampires. Nosferatu is a remake of the original silent movie of the same name. And this may come to no surprise, but this movie is leagues ahead of the original. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy older movies, but this silent movie is just too old for these bones. I know some modern movies can pull off quiet movies really well while using minimal dialogue, but there's still some dialogue to pull you in and make you feel something when shit is going on. Music also helps too. Okay, enough about the old. Let's talk about the new. Nosferatu 2024 is fantastic.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah!
I'm really glad I waited till after I saw the movie to add it to my list for the best of for the year, cause to put it plainly, It was worth it. Nosferatu is easily one of the best horror movies to come out this year. The performances across the board are top notch. Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok is impactful and chilling. He is the kind of vampire that is just inhuman and evil. There are plenty of vampire movies and shows and whatnot that make you think, hey, it might be actually cool if these vampires were real.
I just don't understand why everything gotta be all sexual and licky. Girl, seriously, man, you gotta get your hands up off me before I you up. It's nasty.
But Count Orlok joins the ranks of, if these kinds of vampires were real, it is game over for humanity. Like the Strigoi of The Strain, or the Reapers of Blade 2, or the Vamps in 30 Days of Night. These things are mean and hungry, and you, my friends, are dinner. This is a very artsy, poetic kind of film, filled with old-timey speech and mannerisms, so this movie may not be for everybody. It's definitely for like film buff cinephile types of watchers, and if you are that kind of a moviegoer, get ready to feel darkness and terror, because this movie really goes out of its way to make you feel it. And I think it does it better than most. And that wraps up all of my favorite horror movies that I have seen this year. If there are some that I haven't mentioned in any of my other vids, make sure y'all watch all of my vids and then let me know which ones I have missed and should give a watch.
No, I understand that. You're being very serious right now.
I can clearly see you winking.
Make sure you all check out my Best of the Year Part 1 vid if y'all are feeling spooky and aren't sure what you want to watch. This is obviously a huge year for the channel being monetized and all, and I appreciate every single SOB here that made it happen. I am under no illusion that I am something without all of you. Without you, my dear viewers, I am simply nothing! So thank y'all very much for making me into something, and I will see your spooky asses next year.